Welcome back. You're watching tonight's Focus. And the gender studies controversy has arrived here in France some 40 years after the discipline appeared in U.S. academia. Let's start with a bit of background. Gender studies is a field that focuses on masculinity and femininity. It separates sex, i.e. being biologically male or female, from gender, the socially acquired attributes of manhood and womanhood. The theory has remained little known here in France until now. French children are getting ready to go back to school this September, and one textbook is causing a scandal. It includes a chapter on sexual identity with passages suggesting gender is a social construct. Now, a group of lawmakers from the centre-right UMP party are demanding the book be pulled.
Inside these pages lies trouble. So says 80 French politicians who've given a firm no thanks to what they say is gender studies within a new high school textbook. Originating from the United States, gender theory argues a distinction between sex and gender. It says that you can be born male or female, but that it's social and cultural constructs that make you masculine or feminine. It's a theory relatively unknown here in France, and some MPs want it to stay that way.
Gender theory is clearly detailed in this book, but I don't understand why, because it's quite harmful. We cannot say to children, young boys and girls, we are going to educate you in the same way, because you will go on to decide whether you are a boy or a girl. No, they are what they are from conception.
The 80 MPs, all from the centre-right UMP party, have written an open letter to the French Education Ministry. They demand that any trace of gender studies be pulled from this September's timetable. The passage that's been raising eyebrows is from a science textbook and appears in the chapter on identity and sexual orientation.
From a biological perspective, our identity is male or female, but this doesn't mean that we can type one's gender as masculine or feminine. That sexual identity is constructed throughout our lives in the constant interaction between biological and social-cultural contexts.
The MP's attack has been labelled sexist and homophobic by some. Sex education groups say that this passage isn't even gender theory and that it's all a question of semantics.
I think that the passage relates to a social problem. It makes sense that as posters and official texts often make reference to sex, we should establish that human sexuality doesn't only depend on anatomy and biology, but it is also moulded by society, by culture and family. And I'd go as far as to include an ethical and philosophical aspect.
The Education Ministry has yet not replied. If this debate is launched in France, it will follow rows had in Germany and the United States. In the US, creationists who state that the universe is a divine creation have for many years violently opposed the teaching of evolutionary science and gender theory in their schools.
Joining me now to discuss this is Jacques Millard, a member of parliament from the UMP party here in France. Mr. Millard, you were one of the lawmakers who asked the book be removed. Why?
It's very simple. It has not to be in a scientific book. You know, this is not a scientific theory. This is pure political manipulation. Is to try to say that at the end, either you are male or female, it doesn't really matter because you are just, formed by society, and if you happen to be an homosexual, you are male or female, you are all in the same mess. So this is absolutely pure manipulation. It's a political attitude. It has not to be in a scientific book. We are born male or female. We may have different sexual experience in life. That doesn't really matter. This is not of my, it belongs to the private life of everyone. But for God's sakes, it has nothing to do to say that you are not born a male or born a female. It's nonsense. And this is only to try to confuse people and especially young adults. So I think that we have to say you are born a male, you are born a female, you may have the sexual experience you like, or you will even make change. One day maybe you'll be heterosexual, you may become an homosexual. This is your problem. But for God's sakes, don't say that you are not born male or female. the entire world, humanitarian human being is just very clear. You are born a male, you are born a female, and you may have all sexual experience you want to do afterwards, but don't confuse at the very beginning. You cannot say that your masculinity or femininity is a nonsense. This is fundamental elements in the human being history.
All right, but Mr. Miard, the book seems to say that children are born either one or the other, but that during their lives they can construct their sexual identity. And in the past years, we've seen more and more transgender people, people born male choosing to become female or vice versa. Is that a problem?
This is the exception, and you cannot build a so-called scientific theory on the so-called exception. You may have people who, of course, who become homosexual one day or will go back because they are fed up maybe with their homosexuality. It happens as well. But you cannot say that when you are born male or female, this is rubbish. You are born female, you are born male, and you will have this your wife long. And then you may have different sexual experience. This is your problem, and it has nothing to do in a scientific book. This kind of assertion, this kind of theory coming from United States recalls me the so-called creationists, you know. They say that the world is just been created by God 6,000 years ago. 6,000 years ago. This is absolutely nonsense. Right. It is negation of biology, because in fact we have in a scientific book to base the scientific theory on biology, not on so-called, let's say, political manipulation.
All right. At the same time, Mr. Miard, a top French university, Sciences Po, is creating the first gender studies department starting this September. Do you have a problem with that as well?
You can study as a political issue gender theory, but it has nothing to do in a scientific book on the question of sex life. It's another question. It's certainly, let's say, a sociological, a political issue in these terms. And I would like to say that I will even carry on the study on this so-called gender theory, which appears to be, you know, the explanation of everything. We all know that the society can sometimes influence sexuality. We all know that. But we cannot say that we are not born male or not born female. This is absolutely nonsense. Society, let's say family life, let's say social experience may influence your sexuality. It doesn't change the belonging to male or female.
All right. Well, thanks very much for giving us your reaction. Jacques Miard joining us there, a member of parliament from the UMP party here in France. Thank you for being with us. That was this evening's Focus. Up next is the France 24 interview. Stay tuned.